No, my name is Brooke French. I am a partner at Kessler and Solimiani, and I practice family law. And I'm also a mediator, an arbitrator, and a guardian ad litem. And I look forward to working with you and seeing you when we can all get back together in the future. And our panel today is really great. It is the third in our Access Atlanta Bar Summer Series, and we're so excited about it. It's the concept came about as sort of a welcome to Atlanta. We thought it would be neat to have some folks who are really familiar with Atlanta to explain to us some things that we can do now, particularly now that things are a little bit different and we can't do all the things that we used to do in Atlanta. And whether you've been in Atlanta for years, like I have, almost 20 years, or whether you're new to Atlanta, we thought it would be fun to get some folks together who could tell us what's going on in Atlanta. And so we have with us Jamie Green, who is a multi-platform senior producer at WPBA. We also have Tony Paris, who is the managing editor of Creative Loafing. We also have Betsy Riley, the editor-in-chief of Atlanta Magazine. And we also have Nicole Smith, the arts and entertainment editor at Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And so obviously a really neat panel, a wide variety of interest here. And so we're going to start talking to these guys. And first I'm going to start with Jamie. Jamie, how did you get to Atlanta, and then how did you begin working at your current organization, which is WPBA?
Sure. So hi, everyone. Good afternoon, evening. So before I came to Atlanta, which was almost 3 years ago, I was working in Baltimore in news at WMAR ABC2 News, and looking for a change. I've been in news for more than media as a whole for more than 10 years and just wanted something different. And so as we all do when we're looking for jobs, and so I came across a really amazing opportunity to work with WPBA, which houses our PBS and NPR station, ATL PBA, and WABE. And I've been here for the last 3 years and just recently got promoted to the multi-platform senior producer position. So it's been a great ride here so far.
Well, congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you.
Tony, I'm going to come to you next. Oh, Tony, you're still muted.
Second. There you go. How's that?
That's better.
Okay. How did I get to Atlanta? I was born here.
Great.
Yeah, one of the few natives I think that's around these days. I don't know. They seem to be rare. Maybe there's somebody else here. But I got to Creative Loafing. I've actually had two tours of Creative Loafing. I worked at the paper from 1980 to 1998. And at that point, I was the managing editor the last 7 or 8 years I was there. And then I left Atlanta and moved back. And when I moved back, I ran into Ben Eason, who had bought the paper back. We ran into each other in a parking lot. We started talking, and he asked me if I wanted to come back, so I did. 20 years later. So I've been back since I think 2017. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. And Betsy.
Unmute myself. Hey guys, I have been in Atlanta for over 30 years. Grew up in North Carolina and Tennessee, but always loved Atlanta. We never lived very far away, and we always came to Atlanta to do things. I have been with the magazine in one capacity or another for probably 20 years. Started as a freelance writer. I've been the editor. We have a home magazine, and I've started that magazine. Actually started it twice because we closed it down during the recession. Started it back out in 2015. And then I became editor of the monthly magazine about 3 years ago. But I've worked on the monthly magazine pretty much through the whole time. So been here in different ways, different titles.
Thank you. And Nikki.
Hey, thanks for inviting me to the party. So my name is Nikki Smith, Nicole Smith, and like Brooke said, I'm the Arts, Entertainment, and Features Editor at the AJC. And you asked originally where we're from. I'm from Ohio, from the Cleveland, Ohio area, and go Indians. I love the Cleveland Indians. And I got down here because it was like my last year of high school, and I stayed. So I've been here like 23 years, or so on and so forth. And then how I got to the AJC, I think I have an identical twin sister, and she saw the position and told me she thought I was perfect for it. So just to get her off my back, I applied, and I'm still here 4.5 years later. So go figure. So that's that.
Well, that's great. I appreciate it. And so obviously most of y'all have been here for an awfully long time. So what could you tell me some of your favorite things about Atlanta? Betsy, you said that when you were growing up, y'all used to come to Atlanta. What are some of your favorite things about Atlanta now?
Well, my favorite things about Atlanta are really a lot of them are pretty obvious. I love the size of the city. I feel like Atlanta has a lot of the opportunities that big cities have with the arts, with the universities and all the other things, but yet it's a manageable size. I love the trees. Having grown up more or less all around the Smoky Mountains and the Blue Ridge Mountains, I just am pretty addicted to green space. So there are not many big cities where you can have enjoy as much green space as you can in Atlanta. So those are always my top things. They're pretty obvious, but I still love it.
And Tony, what about you?
The things that I like about Atlanta, I think I like the size of it. It's kind of small, but it's big. And what's big about it is that as far as like touring acts, music acts, and theater, everything comes through Atlanta that would come through a New York or a Chicago or a Los Angeles. You can't really avoid Atlanta if you're a major artist or you have a theater troupe or something. And so between that and the arts here and the homegrown art scene and the museums here, it's a good mixture to where you don't get lost. Like I lived in New York for 10 years, and there were a lot of places that, if you visit New York, you'd go there and you'd want to go to these specific places. But when you're living there, it's like, oh, that's too far away. Even though it's only across town, you don't get out and do as much. In Atlanta, you can pretty much get anywhere you want in a good amount of time, unless, it's really bad traffic at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But otherwise, you can usually do things pretty quick. So I like the size. That's one of the main things.
And what would you say, Jamie?
Well, I just have to say, it's like the 4 F's for me. It's the food, it's the family, it's the fun, and of course, film. The fact that my favorite movies are filmed here is just the best thing ever. When I found out the Black Panther was shot at the High Museum area, I was like super fan. And my family has been in Atlanta and the outskirts of Atlanta for years. And so there was no other reason why I wouldn't be here. And the food is incredible. I'm warning everyone, you're going to gain the weight. If you weren't thinking about it, it's going to happen because it's so good and it's so worth it. So indulge, if you will.
And Nikki?
So can I give a 2-part answer?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll start by saying my 2-part answer is diversity. So I'll split that into 2 branches. Number 1, diversity meaning just diverse neighborhoods. That I didn't really understand that when I came to the city at first. So there's difference between Midtown and Buckhead, and then Vickery and downtown Duluth. And now Halcyon, right? So all just constantly developing, constantly coming up with new neighborhoods, much like Tony was talking about New York. I feel like Atlanta has very much that, where you can go to a different side of town and get whatever flavor that you feel. So if you want to be in something that feels mixed use, if you want to feel something is nestled in trees, and if you want skyscrapers, it's all in Atlanta. So I would say definitely the diversity in the types of neighborhood. And then also diversity in the way that people often think of diversity. I would say that would be race and different types of people, and just thought leadership. You're not going to meet the same type of person over and over here, which is great, because oftentimes I feel like Southern cities might be stereotyped a little bit. And this is just more of a progressive Southern city. And if you spend any time in Atlanta, you will certainly find out how diverse the people are, whether you like it or not.
You know, Nikki, if I could piggyback on that for a minute, like I live in just outside the perimeter in Cobb County, which Cobb County has a whole other set of thoughts that people say, but where we live, like my son's high school kids spoke 60 different languages, and the knowledge that to him seems innate about the different countries and the different, you know, he just knows all these different kinds of people, and I just love that. And there was a Brazilian pocket that happened to be near where we lived, and you know, so we got to enjoy that influence in what we were around. And when the time came that my son went to look at colleges, I can't even remember which college it was, but he was a baseball player. So we went to it was some Southern, and he wasn't that good. So it was some small college who had invited him. And he almost like walked through the cafeteria and was like, oh no, this place is all white. It gives me the hives. And I'm like, but you're white. You know, it's like, it's just wonderful to me, the diversity. And I know there's a lot of tension right now, but I think the diversity is something that most Atlantans embrace and love, and it's one of the reasons we're
here. I'd agree with that. I mean, I moved here from Massachusetts almost 20 years ago, and it wasn't my intent to make it my home, but I think a lot of people come here and just end up staying, and you fall in love with the city and fall in love with what it has to offer in terms of, as Tony was saying, you can get to things and visit things, and as Jamie was saying, the food and just the different neighborhoods, like Nicole was saying, you can get all sorts of different things when you go to different places. And so thinking about that, if you could think of the top few things that you recommend people do when they come here, which I realize if I asked you this question 6 months ago, that answer might be different, because everything would have been open and everything would have been accessible. But what are sort of the top things that you recommend people do when they come to Atlanta to visit? Nicole, can I start with you?
Yeah, well, some of the things, you know, we get different mandates and suggestions every day. So I'll preface it with that. But some of the things, I think we can always count on being outside, right? So if you're new to Atlanta, somebody's immediately going to tell you to go to Piedmont Park. I also suggest that you go to the Beltline just for the great art there. So you'll see a lot of impromptu art, or the city is full of murals. So you can even do like a self-guided tour of different type of murals. One of my favorite is Outcast. But anyway, so just I would suggest just walking the city, you know, finding trails, finding parks, finding places that allow you to be an observer of your environment. So that would be my first suggestion if somebody was new to the city. And I understand that we can't eat out in the same way that we used to, or maybe we just don't even feel comfortable to, even if the restaurant is open, but that doesn't mean you can't eat. So I would start with the Beltline. Even if you want to take that and then find a nice place in the park. So one of my favorite places on the Beltline is actually Hawkers, which is like Hawkers, which is Asian street food. And I was like, how's that different than regular Asian food or Asian fusion food? They found a way to make it different. So I would start there, and it's nestled right next to Krog Street Market, which is full of restaurants and little shops and things that just feel less big and more cozy. So I perhaps plop yourself on the Beltline. You want to stay outside and be comfortable, maybe order something to go from one of the great restaurants and enjoy the city.
And what would you say, Tony?
Well, you know, a lot of the things are closed now, but you know, you can still get a taste. Like I used to do these things when people would come to town. When I was at Creative Loafing the first time, I was the music editor, so I'd interview a lot of people, and I'd take them around, and I'd take them to the King Center, and I'd take them to the Krispy Kreme on Ponce de Leon. I'd take them to little 5 Points for the record stores, Criminal and Wax and Facts. Maybe go by the Varsity just so they can see it, and then end up at the Claremont Lounge. But these days, it has a lot to do with going on the Beltline and staying outside and walking Piedmont Park. You can't visit the Olympic Park anymore because it's closed now. But you know, it's just taking people around and either walking or even riding MARTA through town. You can point out things that are going on in different neighborhoods, different areas.
Jamie, what would you add to that?
To that end, I would say shoot the hooch. And I'm not talking about a drink or a beverage. Ever get the chance. And I believe it's still open to everyone. So it is a city that you can do social distancing right now. Thank you. But I actually have a funny story with it. About 2 years ago, my colleagues new to Atlanta, similar to like many of you on this call, were like, you've got to experience this, Jamie. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, just bring an inner tube, we'll blow it up. And I'm like, that sounds like a lot of work, but okay. So I was like, okay, so we went there. It was a group of us, but there was a lot more of us. And I didn't realize how many people. We tied our little rafts together. We had food and everything. And we pretty much rode the Chattahoochee River is what it is. My only recommendation is, though, do not get a phone call from your mother saying that your sister is gone into labor. So don't have any long-term plans. Because you do need to go with the flow, literally like the river. You need to kind of just wait till you get to the end, but it's an amazing experience. There's a pretty cool water cliff off the edge. You can like kind of, Tony was shaking his head earlier, so maybe he knows what I'm talking about, but there's this little area where you can jump off the cliff. I'm afraid of heights, so I will not be doing that ever, but there is this really nice area where people would congregate and eat some food and they play music, and it's just a one of a lifetime, you know, kind of experience. So great times.
Can I add to that really quickly?
Of course.
I just want to also, like, we're a lot of things which you'll hear Atlantans, if you're new, say ITP and OTP. So ITP meaning inside the perimeter and OTP meaning outside. So for you suburbanites, just remember that Atlantans have access to a lot of things. So if you enjoy the mountains, I actually want to suggest that, or waterfalls. We have some beautiful Georgia mountains just north of us, and they include lovely waterfalls if nature is your thing, and then you can ride on back to the city and do your city life.
And of course, Nicole, don't forget Stone Mountain, the historic Stone Mountain. If you ever get to be going for the first time, actually, everyone, if you see, it's supposed to be a great place to go hiking, and of course, there's some historical reference to that as well.
Have to be careful though, just because it depends on who's protesting during that weekend. So check the calendar first.
And Betsy, what can you add to that?
Well, some of the things that are my standard recommendations, I believe, are closed right now. I always send people to the Center for Civil and Human Rights, which is pretty much my favorite, museum to send people to because it's unusual and very moving. I had this thing, my son, as I said, my kids grew up in the burbs, and one of them was going away to school. I'm like, you really need to see the city as so much more interesting, because I had this vested interest that I wanted him to come back. So I took him, we had a field trip with Mom, and we went to the Center for Civil and Human Rights. We rode up to the Sundial restaurant just to watch, it's fun to go up there just to see the view. You don't have to even eat anything. And then the other thing, I took him to Manuel's, which is a long time tavern that's been around since the 50s. It's a real gathering place for journalists, but that's a fun place. So I don't know those places are so great right now. So thinking of right now, I probably would look for activities that you can do on rooftops. I think there's some fun things you can do, like you can go to the rooftop of Ponce City Market, and they have games up there. The Claremont has a cool lounge on its roof. And even, again, in the burbs, up on the Marietta Square, there's a theater that has a rooftop that it opens. And, you know, there's plenty of air circulating, and you can look over the area. And that's a fun thing to do. Sort of goes along with Atlanta's weather.
Speaking of the burbs, do y'all have any favorite OTP recommendations?
For what?
For anything, for something to do? I mean, Betsy just recommended, you know, Marietta, the square, for things to do outside the perimeter.
I can suggest, because I live outside the perimeter, so I try to do both. One thing I'll mention that I feel like a lot of even Atlantans aren't hip to is downtown Duluth. And it's just a beautiful town square. It has the cute chocolate shops. It has, you know, Mexican restaurants. And of course, it has all kinds of cute little restaurants. And then, of course, it's a square. So you have a place that people gather. Sometimes people have activities or outside art or anything like that. So, and it's just intimate. So, and then plus, if you go down West Lawrenceville Street, it's a bunch of big, beautiful houses that people built. So it's nice and scenic. And then also it's just not as well known, even though the food is great, the company is great. Your kids can play through water fountains and so on and so forth. So things like that. And I feel like you won't deal with the same crowds that you'll deal with inside the perimeter. So that's one. And then the second one I'll mention is new. It's called the Halcyon, which is in Alpharetta. So a little bit further north than Duluth. It's north of the city. And that's great because everything's new. They have a food hall. They have a place where people gather on the outside and they sit and they chill on the lawn. They have breweries there. And it's also continuing to grow. So there are a lot, and they have, it's also higher end a little bit if you like to be fancy schmancy. So you can check out like really neat Mercedes-Benz that you probably aren't going to see on the lot when you go to your normal Mercedes-Benz lot, if Mercedes is your normal thing. So things like that will make your experience a little bit different, and it'll just show you how expansive the influence of the city is beyond just this perimeter and into the burbs.
Hey,
Jamie?
I just want to say I'm on the phone, Jackie Saylor, or I'm on, but this is the first time I've had trouble getting away from my canned picture to me, which is always actually the can's better than me. But I did want to say that I'm on here.
Thanks, Jackie. Jamie, what were you going to mention?
I was going to mention something that sounds like it would be closer to Betsy, which is the Battery. It's one of my favorite places. It's in Cobb County. If you all didn't know, our baseball team is now located in Cobb County, has been there for some time now. It's a great experience. It's, you know, a lot of interactive areas. It's pretty much outdoors, but it has this way of like still having these enclosed places. So you can go play some pool, you can order some drinks, you can ride the bull. Like there's pretty much the games and the entertainment is endless out there. You can even hear some incredible music, and hopefully maybe baseball season will be back amongst all the other sports teams at some point. You'll be able to catch a game over there, but it's just a great energy. It's great to walk around. Again, it's another area to self-guide yourself around and get some great food along the way.
Excellent. Speaking of food, what would you say are your favorite hidden gems for restaurants? Tony, what's your favorite hidden gem restaurant?
Did I name one or a lot of them?
However many you want to name, knowing that there are a whole bunch of people on this call that might go to these restaurants.
Everyone has talked about the food in Atlanta except for me. And I will have to agree that the food is one of the great reasons to be in Atlanta. There's such an assortment. I mean, you go out Buford Highway, you have it a lot of different flavors and different things. On Buford Highway, I really like a place called Mamak, which is a Malaysian restaurant. And it's really good. It's spicy, but Mamak is a great place. They don't have a liquor license, so you can take a bottle if you want to. In Decatur, I really like Cafe Alsace, which is a French restaurant. Real small, intimate place. And then just OTP near the Battery is Heirloom Barbecue. which is traditional barbecue, but with a Korean bent to it that I find to be really fantastic. What else? Those are the main ones. You know, oh, Shoya Etsukaya. I really like Shoya, which is out in Buford Highway. Shoya is a Japanese Etsukaya, which means it's more like finger food. It's not just sushi and not meals, but you order a lot of appetizers and you can sit and drink. And so those are I don't know how hidden they are, but they may not be the places that are on your radar. Those are the kind of places I like.
And Betsy, what are your hidden gems?
Well, I was thinking about this. We did, Brooke, you said we could be shameless about our promotion. So like,
Absolutely.
wait, let's see here. Does this show? No, it's not going to show. Oh, well. We did 2 issues fairly recently that were really fun, and you can find all of this on our website, but we did one on tacos in March, and it was really comprehensive. And one of my favorite things about it was we had a whole thing on gas station tacos. And apparently, in Atlanta, because the laws were so restrictive about food trucks for so long, that we've developed this whole sort of genre of small places attached to gas stations. There are also a lot of donut places attached to gas stations. So donuts and tacos. And so we sort of sampled all these gas station tacos, and I got to like 2 of them that were out here in Cobb County. Actually, one was Venezuelan, and the other, I guess, was just more Mexican, but they were really fun and really different. So that's a fun little thing. You can find those. And then we also did a big, giant guide to Buford Highway last fall. So we have that also on our website. And I think those places are fun. Varying degrees of ability to social distance. I mean, a lot of them you can sit outside and just order at a counter.
And what about you, Jamie?
I apologize in advance. It is thundering. So if you hear it, I'm okay. I love a lot. I'm a brunch girl. I love brunch. And maybe it's because I was in DC forever. But there's a place called Fifth Church. And if you've been here before, you may have been to where Shop is to be at. And it's right in Midtown. And what I love most about it is not just the food, it's the way that they have the rooftop. It literally sits in between 2 buildings. And so you just feel like you're immersed in the city in a way that you could be like warmed and hugged. And it just feels so loving. And I just love it. And the people are great. It's really easy access to just walk around, again, on these self-guided tours in Atlanta. The Next comes to mind at the Little 5 Points area. There's so many places to eat over there. One of the cool things about the Vortex, which has been on so many famous like food, wine and dine shows, Guy Fieri being one of them. And they have this huge skull that laughs that you walk through, which is kind of cool, if you want a good selfie or something. But there's so many great places. One other place that comes to mind is I believe it's the District area. It's like right off of Howell Mill, which sits kind of in the cut. But the way that it's set up, it's all of these little shops and restaurants kind of like on these adjacent streets. And they have a great ice cream spot there. And this little like Asian cuisine that's like way underneath. It's really dark. I've never been there, but it looks great. But the ice cream is what I go there for all the time. So those are some places that I could think of.
Nicole, do you have any hidden gems to add?
So I'll just say what I like. I don't know if they're hidden or not, but I'm a burger girl. You don't even have to be fancy schmancy with me. Just give me a nice burger and we're good. So I like Mixed Up Burger. They got 2 locations, one at Grant Park. Yeah, see, Tony.
Yeah.
One in Eastlake and one, the other one I think is in Grant Park. So that's one. And they also have a food truck, which is how I was introduced to it. It's owned by a former chef. So, or maybe he's still currently a chef, but also, so the burger is good. If you're a wine person, Georgia has wineries. I don't know if you knew that. So take a look at Chateau Elan, and that's a great winery. You can just kind of get away, again, nestle yourself in something that feels very Napa Valley. And then my twin, who introduces me to a lot of things, I have an identical twin. She lives in the New York City area. So she teaches me things, and then I try to find the equivalent in Atlanta oftentimes. And there's this cute little gelato place in Ponce City Market. And I've introduced my cousin to it, who didn't even know what gelato was. So now he's addicted. So yeah, so I would say for lunch, get a burger, mixed up burgers, for some wine, Chateau Elan, and then for a dessert, go to Pod City Market and enjoy gelato.
That sounds like I want to join you for an afternoon and do those things.
You know, Brooke, I'm going to have to move in here for a second and second mixed up burger. There's so many burger places in Atlanta and everybody says, oh, this is the one and this is the one. But Mixed Up Burger consistently has the best burger you will ever eat. And they're open for drive-through. And we make a point of going there at least once a week because the food holds up. You know, a lot of food, when you take it to go, it doesn't hold up by the time you get home. But Mixed Up Burger, and try their Cajun fries sometime.
It's a good thing we're doing this late in the afternoon so that we can all go and figure out what we're doing for dinner after this. And I bet we're going to see a line at Mixed Up Burger and at the gelato place. And maybe we're all driving up to Chateau Elan after that because this all sounds good to me. Do y'all know of anything that's sort of up and coming in Atlanta? I'm thinking, a few years ago, Ponce City Market opened, and, a few years before that, we heard about the Beltline. But like, do you know of anything that's up and coming that maybe us normal people wouldn't know about, but y'all who follow the scene would know about? Is there anything that y'all know about? Betsy, is there something that you know about that we may not?
Well, I think, the next big thing that I'm excited about, which it seems like we've been waiting for it forever, is the Quarry Park. There's this giant quarry that's no longer used over on the west side, and they are filling it up with water. It's going to be a beautiful lake, and they're turning it into this beautiful new park, which will be bigger than Piedmont Park. And then also, along with that, I think, and I don't know the status of this, but also on the west side, that where the city reservoir is, that was originally a park a long time ago. And I think the lore is that when the Olympics came, they fenced it off. So you might have noticed it like at Howell Mill and Huff Roads. There's just big waterworks that are fenced off. Well, they used to be a park. And I think they fenced it during the Olympics, keep people out of the water supply. But now there's talk of making it a park again. So I think we may be in for some new, really large green spaces, which would be cool.
Yes, very cool, because I live over on the west side, so I've been following those and hoping that those two things come to fruition, because without those fences, it would be a lot nicer. A lot nicer.
Yeah.
Jamie, what up and coming thing do you have to disclose to this small intimate group of
Like this exclusive information, right? I'm sorry, I don't have this exclusive information, but I have two things actually. One, I believe was announced, 2017, which was the underground area. When I used to come down here in Atlanta, that was an area that I would frequent to kind of go find out what was the latest music or trends or clothes or food, which is kind of nestled in underneath, literally underground, where downtown area is. And we haven't seen anything new, but I do feel like some things may be in the works, hopefully sooner than later, as far as where they're going with renovations. So I'm excited to see that. And then also to the West End point that Betsy was talking, I mean, the mall at the West End has kind of been talking about having reservations done over that way for some time. So I'm excited to see that. There's a lot of really great eateries over there. I love Caribbean food. And there's so many great spots to eat over there, as well as a new pizzeria that I've been to like maybe once or twice over there. That's really nice. But it's just great culture and food. And like Nicole was saying, diversity. So if you want to really kind of get a new mix of people to be around and food, it's a great grab to go to.
One thing I should also say, there's a difference between people. It's very confusing because there's, West Atlanta, and then there's the people say West Side. It's really West Midtown. And so and they're very different and they're not near each other. So it can be kind of confusing. The historic West Atlanta is more near the Atlanta University Center, and that has more, well, they're both historic, but in